Hello and welcome to Rhodes Smart Camp. This episode is how much I love Budapest. And I got booked to do this Sziget Music Festival about 6 months ago. So I've been looking forward to coming to Budapest all year. And I just spent the past week in Budapest, and it did not disappoint, ladies and gentlemen. God, from the moment I arrived, oh my God. So first of all, staying at the Mercury Hotel Corona, which is like a 10-minute walk from the Freedom Bridge, which is this beautiful old green kind of gothic looking bridge. And I walked across this bridge a few times, and it's got these adorable yellow trolleys, train cars going over the bridge, just absolutely picturesque. And then you walk straight across this bridge, and then there's this place called the Gellert Baths. There's these ancient baths in Budapest. But actually what they are is they're public swimming pools. And at this Gellert Baths, as it's called, they filmed, I guess the Grand Budapest Hotel was filmed there. Anywho, I had a really good pee. They're basically swimming pools. I didn't pee there, I'm joking. But the place is incredible. It was hot one day, and I got to go over there and swim and cross this bridge. And I think that, for like the city alone, was one of my favorite experiences. But I arrive at the hotel. I get met by Kalman, the guy who books the comedy for the Sziget Music Festival. And my comedian friends were there. Phil Nickel, Tony Woods, who's one of my oldest friends in comedy. And then Kalman basically, oh my God, I love this guy. He's from Budapest. He knows history. He loves his city. He loves comedy. And he bent over backwards, showing us from the moment we arrived, his city. First of all, we went to some Moroccan restaurant, and we had like a 5-course meal. And there was a woman there. Kalman had invited, and she was from Budapest, but she seemed very Los Angeles American to me. She had blonde hair. She had her sunglasses on the whole lunch, and she looked at her phone a lot. And I'm addicted to my phone. I had a moment this week involving my phone addiction, which I'll talk about later. But anyway, take your sunglasses off. I like to look people in the eye when I talk. And I tried to tell some story, and she kept interrupting me. And it's something I've said before, but it's not nice when I tell someone. I said, listen, it's a short story, and we'll get to the end a lot quicker without any interruptions. And any important details I will add in the story. Because she kept going. I was telling the story about this guy in front of the hotel in Paris who had just been in a fight, and he was bleeding, and he comes up and asked me for a cigarette. And she was like, what time of day was it? What shoes was he wearing? Anyway, just all these needless interruptions. So Kalman and Tony Woods laughed their asses off. So for the rest of the week, whenever I would tell a story, they would say, they would ask me, what was the ethnicity? What were they wearing? What was his hairstyle? What was her teeth like? It was kind of a funny running joke for the rest of the week. But comedians being with comedians, I talked to a few of these comedians, and guys I've known forever, spent the week with them. I laughed so hard. It was so good for my soul. And all of these guys were dealing with some personal issues, which I won't give away anything, but it's just such magical, powerful healing medicine to be with people you love and to laugh your asses off. Kalman, after we had lunch, he walks us around, I said I wanted to find some military clothes. And he took us to some place that sold military stuff, but they didn't have much clothes. They were selling old guns. There was tons of Nazi shit. There was like Nazi brass knuckles and Nazi rings and shit, which was kind of spooky to see that shit and know the history. And then he took us up to the castle. Beautiful view of the Danube River and the Parliament. And after we drove there, he drove us somewhere. We had dinner at this amazing pizza place called Forni di Napoli. And apparently they had won like best pizza in Europe. There's some kind of like a Champions League of pizza places that this place won. And the pizza was spectacular. So that's just the first day. And then we walked by the Parliament, which is this big, grand, beautiful building. And Tony Woods kept saying that's where George Clinton lives, from Parliament Funkadelic. And he had to explain that to the Europeans who aren't as obsessed with 70s funk as me and Tony. Anyway, I thought it was hilarious. But let me tell you let me go back on a connection I have with Budapest, Hungary. From when I was 22 years old, I moved to San Francisco with Natalie, the first love of my adult life, from Paris. And we moved there. Everything fell into place magically. You know, when you're young and you take a chance and you move to a new city and you don't know, you have no safety net. You don't know how things are going to work out. We moved out there in my big white 1978 Cadillac sedan with whatever, you know, what we had in the trunk was our entire existence. And I had $800 in my pocket. And we found this really small apartment when we got to San Francisco. And the first thing we bought, we had no furniture, we had nothing, just like a couple of suitcases. We bought a mattress. Could we afford the box springs to go with it? I don't even remember. But I think we got box springs and a mattress delivered. That was our first piece of furniture. And it was this old Hungarian man. And he looked like Santa Claus. And, you know, it's funny. I was 22. I mean, maybe that guy was my age that I am now. But in my mind, he was old. I mean, I think he was in his 60s. I don't know. But he looked like Santa Claus. He had a big, long white beard. And he delivers the mattress. And I thought, oh, this older guy. I helped him, you know, bring the mattresses and stuff up the stairs to our little apartment at 1096 Fulton Street. And the guy sees that we don't have any furniture. And, that we just moved there and we're young kids and we're in love. So this guy, he said, I'll see what I can do for finding you guys stuff. So apparently this guy was like a hustler and a mover. He had this little, truck. And when we first moved to San Francisco, like after he had delivered the mattress, he would stop by. There was no cell phones then. I don't even think we had a landline. The doorbell would ring, and this guy would pull up in front of his truck, and then he had, like a couch and an armchair. I remember they were gold. They were beautiful. He said he got it somewhere like in Nob Hill, some fancy neighborhood in San Francisco. I think he had delivered a new couch, and rich people said, take this stuff away. So he brings it by, and I'm like, how much do you want for it? We didn't have any money. And he was like, $300. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do $300. And he'd be like, what do you have? And I'd be like, I had like $60 in my pocket. And then he would give us the stuff. And this went on and on until like we started getting furniture. He'd stop by, he'd have lamps, give $20, whatever I had. It was like, this guy was the angel when we moved to San Francisco, and he sold us all this furniture for nothing. And he just did it because he saw that we were young kids. and we were in love. And so anyway, this guy brought us so much nice furniture, and he was so kind to us that we invited him to come over for dinner one night. And he told us, I remember Natalie made beef bourguignon. That was her big French dish that she made that was amazing. And it was really, and we had this little tiny apartment. I think it was like a studio apartment. And we had a little tiny table, and we invite this guy over for, no, it wasn't a studio. I think it was, because it was decent size. But so we invite Hungarian Santa Claus, Angel, to dinner, and he told us his story. He was a Hungarian Jewish man, and he had fled Hungary when the Nazis took over. And he said that, I remember him telling the story that he had to swim across the Danube River, and that's a wide mofo, and that he had to walk at night and sleep and in the daytime and rest and hide and shit until he got to wherever and got out of Hungary. It's just amazing, the stories of, imagine just being hunted because of who you are and having to flee like that. It's, the shit's still going on in many different varieties today, which we'll scratch on later. Anyway, but I remember the guy telling us also that he hadn't been to Hungary in years, and he didn't know if he would ever get to go back. This is like 1990. And I remember the guy telling us about, when I told him I was a comedian, he said, "Oh, I love comedians. When I was a boy, we used to go to the circus in Hungary, and the clowns, I loved the clowns the most." And he said, "I remember this song that this clown would sing." And then this old man at the table, he's going, and it was something like, "When you're sad, put on a happy face." It was like pretty dreadful, but it was beautiful to see this old man remembering when he was a kid. But I think that guy thinks I was a professional clown that put on makeup and floppy shoes. I don't know. But he was an angel, and he was from Budapest, Hungary. And, I think it's worth remembering that man. I hope he got back to Hungary. Hopefully he saw a comedian instead of a clown. But anyway, it's also interesting how I heard about the Sziget Music Festival last November when I was in Holland doing a little theater tour. It's funny. I went to the comedy stage every night at the Sziget Festival and watched my friends. And a lot of these European comedians were making fun of the Dutch, because there's a lot of Dutch people come to this music festival. And it's funny, because I lived in Holland, I've when I feel people talk shit about the Dutch, I take it personal. Like they're, like I'm part Dutch or something. I'm like, oh no, that's unfair. Nonetheless, last November when I was in Holland doing this little theater tour, I was talking about, on stage I talked about going to the Burning Man Festival and how I didn't enjoy it. The thing I didn't like about Burning Man, I'd never had any desire to go, but I was having a tough moment in 2023, and a friend had a free ticket for Burning Man. So I thought, what the fuck, let's check it out. But, and it's arts, and a lot of people are taking drugs, and it's supposed to be this utopian community. But what I found at the Burning Man Festival was I didn't want to be reminded of the inequalities of life. A lot of rich people have taken it over, and they're arriving by helicopter and plane, and then they've got their motor coach, buses, and, you got the other people like myself sleeping in a tent, and there's no shower. And, there were moments I really enjoyed the night they burned the man at the Burning Man Festival. And I hung out with this German brother and sister. They're actually Vietnamese, but they're from Hamburg, Germany. And they didn't drink alcohol, but they danced and partied like me. And that was my favorite night. But I tell you that story to tell you this. When I was in Holland in November, after my show in Amsterdam, this Dutch guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey man, I liked what you were saying about the Burning Man festival." And he said, I used to go to Burning Man. Oh, so this guy's Dutch, but he's a pilot for Lufthansa Airlines and he lives in Berlin. Really cool young dude in his mid-30s. He said, "I used to go to the Burning Man festival every year, but now I go to the Sziget Music Festival instead in Budapest every year." And I had never heard of Sziget at that moment. Then a few months later, earlier this year, this guy contacts me on Instagram and asked me if I would be interested in doing the Sziget Music Festival. And then we got on WhatsApp video call, and Dave Thompson is the man's name. He's a British comedian. He's from England, but he lived in Budapest for years. He's got a Hungarian ex-wife and two kids that he raised here, lived here for a long time. He's living back in England now. But he said, when we got on the phone, he said, "You may not remember me, but 30 years ago, I was in San Francisco and you were nice to me. You gave me a ride home in your big white Cadillac, and you were a really cool guy." So it was interesting. My act of kindness 30 years ago is why I was invited to do the Sziget Music Festival right now. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Okay, so now that I have experienced both, let me tell you, fuck the Burning Man Festival. The Sziget Music Festival, that Dutch German airline pilot was so correct, is so much cooler than Burning Man. First of all, I mean, it's not, 105 degrees in the desert, sweating your balls off. The weather was very pleasant. And the comedy shows were actually my least favorite part of the experience of Sziget, because they put the comedy stage. It wasn't a tent, but it was a little like building built, for the comedy show. But it was right next to the hip hop stage. So I go. The first night of the festival is Wednesday, and it's Phil Nickel and Scott Capurro, and both pros, both been doing it 30 years plus, and this from the hip hop stage next door, this loud thump, 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 thump the whole time they're on, and then the sound system in the place was kind of shit. So the sound was turned up really loud. I see these guys kind of plowing through their material, which is never nice when you have to plow through your material. It reminded me 10, 15 years ago, I did it twice, this Singapore Beer Festival, which was so much fun. But it was a comedy tent, and there's all these music tents with this loud blasting music, and, really difficult you got to be a comedian of years of experience to handle that kind of shit. So anyway, I see these guys the first night. The show was only 1 hour, and are we still recording? The show was only 1 hour, and then I'll tell you the cool thing about the Sziget Festival. Beforehand, I've been looking forward to this for so long. The festival website had this really cool feature where, for all the music acts that were on the festival, they had like a Spotify link or something. There was their tracks of their music, so you could, So there's like music acts from all over the world, and one of the acts that I found, or that I was listening to her tracks before the festival, was this woman Nura, Nura. That's her like hip hop name. She's from Germany. Well, actually, she was. Her full name is Nura Habib Omar. She was born in Kuwait City, Kuwait, but She's actually Eritrean. From Africa, and she's so pretty. Oh my God! First of all, so I saw her photo, and I had this realization recently that for me the ultimate divine feminine beauty is Sade. For me, from where I was in my age, her music, and I. There's been some exceptions, but I think almost every woman that I've deeply loved my entire life slightly resembled Sade in some way. So I think if I was young, I don't know, 20s, 30-year-old person from Germany, I think my ideal divine feminine would be this woman, Noura. She's so pretty, and she's got tattoos. She's a real badass. I listened to her music and I was like, fuck yes, man. It's interesting. I've said this before. I love black women, and the only thing I find more attractive than an American black woman is a French-speaking black woman from Africa. So here's this German-speaking black woman from Africa, and I'm so startled. I was not expecting the magnitude and the power of this woman. And anyway, it turns out I looked at her Instagram. I followed her on Instagram. She thinks she's also an actress on some show. Wait, where's that Wikipedia? She's on some. I saw her, they won some award. Okay, so she plays Flora on the Amazon Prime Video Die Discounter. Okay, I'm going to have to watch that. Anyway, so fortunately, the hip-hop stage was next to the comedy show, and at 8:15 or whatever the time was, I was right in the front for Noura. And it was a little chilly that first night, so she was all layered up, and she's a badass. And I think like for me, Tupac Shakur has always been one of my all-time favorites because it's danceable and fun, even if he's talking about hard shit. So I have no idea what Noura's talking about. She's rapping in German, with some exceptions that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But like, she's cool and it's fun and it's dancey. And here's the thing. It was such a cool audience. It was all these young, white German girls, and they knew every word to her songs. And they're all like just jumping up and down, and they're singing along with her. And my favorite moment of the show, Noura brought some young white German girl up onto the stage, and she let the woman take over and sing the second half of the song. I mean, and this they had to like bring this young woman over like the barrier for her to get up there and sing. So, anywho, it was really cool seeing all these young German girls going crazy for Noura. And one of her songs, she says, "Suck my pussy and suck it good." So if to just all this like female energy, women jumping up and down, yelling, "Suck my pussy and suck it good." I mean, if that doesn't send goosebumps down your spine, nothing will. Okay, so, but here's the song I heard. I have no idea what this song is called. I'm going to play you a little bit of this because I filmed this on video. And this, so here we go.
benehmen. Bin auf Weed und so für den Spaß und allen Mädels. Eine Sache musst du mir erklären. Wenn deine Perle nicht kommt, wem hast du dann gegeben? No offense, ich lecke wie ein Champ. So gut, dass sie sich kennt, verwette das ist Hemd. Ich nehme euch eure Weiber weg und wir haben geilen Sex.
Wow. Okay. So I filmed that on my phone. And so that's like one of the tunes I heard before the festival started. And then the lyrics, I mean, come on. Hot girl summer, I'm a savage. Pussy's so good it goes splash, splash. I mean, that's poetry in any language, really, truthfully. So anyway, all week that I kept singing that chorus, that verse was in my head all week. So just with the other comedians and Kalman and everyone we were hanging out with, I'm sure they thought it was cute at first, but I kept all week I was singing "Hot Girl Summer, I'm a Savage." Pussy so good it goes splash, splash. Wow. Pussy so good it goes splash, splash. Anywho, the cool thing about, so Noura's, and I mean, this woman, I thought she was electrifying. Her performance was so cool. And then as she's going on the evening, she's like taking off her layers and of clothes. And I'm a fan. Anyway, I want to find her music. And there's the cool thing about the festival is there's this artist village. So it's really cool. Like when we arrive in this back entrance, and then you had these wristbands, and they would scan you, and it was really cool. This huge, where all the artists were. And after her performance, I saw Noura, and I went over. I said, "Hey," and she was like, I think she was smoking a joint. Might have been a joint. I have no idea. I said, "Hey, Noura, your show was amazing. I loved it." And then she turns and looks at me, and I had my jean jacket on, and I got my sheriff's badge that I got from Yellowstone National Park, and it says Tommy on it. It says Tommy, and then Yellowstone National Park. And she looked at her face lit up, and she goes, "The sheriff," which made me like so happy. And I leaned in to show her my sheriff's badge, and I said, "If you look, my jurisdiction is only in Yellowstone National Park." But I think the word jurisdiction did not click in her mind. And she and I didn't want to be like a creep, and she had just gotten off stage, but I was happy that I got to say hi to her, and she's awesome. Oh, and then during her show, like somebody was flying a Free Palestine flag in her show, and then somewhere in her show she goes, "Free Palestina, free Ukraine, free Burkina Faso, free South Sudan." Oh yeah, when she comes out and she spoke in English, she said, I don't look it, but I'm German. And she said, "Do you want me to speak in English or German?" And all the German women go German, and then so boom, the rest of the show she spoke in German. But saw a lot of Free Palestine flags. And traveling around Europe too, like protests in Paris, even in Ireland, Free Palestine, even like young white, little on the suburbs of Dublin, Ireland, young white Irish girls, like Girl Scout looking troops on the side of the road. Just you see Free Palestine movement people all over Europe now. So anyway, Noura was one of the highlights of the festival, and you should check out her music, and you should follow her on Instagram. And if I have a hit television show, I'm going to ask her to play my wife. Okay, so speaking of unexpected political moments during the festival, Hungary it's an authoritarian state run by Viktor Orban, and the places at night you could see women walking around by themselves, people out on the street. They saw very little crime, but during the festival, it's funny. Like talking about Nura and hip hop. I mean, I thought I've never heard a German rap hip hop person before. Maybe that's why I loved it so much. But I mean, she's got the swagger and she's got the cool, and she's the new Sade, in my opinion. She's so fine. I want to get a T-shirt with her face on it. Anyway, I watched a lot of Hungarian hip hop artists. But they weren't. It's funny how, like 10 years ago, I was in Beijing, and I remember on TV seeing everything was hip hop, and these Chinese people, and they all got that original Brooklyn attitude and wearing the clothes and all the hip hop. I mean, hip hop swallowed the world 10, 20 years ago, and it's everywhere. So I saw some Hungarian rappers, and one of them, there was a couple of acts I saw that were chanting "fuck Orban," and I was waiting for soldiers to come in and start beating people, but it never happened. So to see people outwardly political in what you've heard is a tightly run authoritarian police state was really really interesting. But the Hungarian rappers, there was one guy I saw. And it's interesting, it's hard to watch a bad comedian. It's hard to watch a bad preacher. It's hard to watch a bad anything. I saw this guy, and he had his white Hungarian guy rapping on one of the afternoons, and his hair was dyed really stupid, different, bright colors. And then later that night, I saw him arguing with his girlfriend, and I was walking with Sophia, Kalman's partner, comedy expert, bigwig in the Hungarian comedy scene. And this guy was arguing with his girlfriend, and she kept trying to walk off, and he kept chasing after her. And obviously this guy had fucked up. And Sophia could hear them speaking Hungarian, and she said he had cheated on her. And man, this woman was pissed, and she kept trying to walk away. So that was an interesting human drama moment. I saw this guy who I thought was a really weak rapper earlier in the afternoon having a big crisis in his obviously whoever he fucked didn't think he was mediocre. But anyway, back to the comedy. So my show was on the Thursday where I headlined, and it was tough. This guy Tausif from Bangladesh went on first, and there was an audience in there. And then there was another act on after Tausif. But when he finished, everyone left apparently because Nelly Furtado was going on the main stage. But the big thumping from the hip hop stage, and then the sound wasn't that great. So I thought I would come out and hit them with jokes up front. And then they were the joke. It took me a minute to get it going. And once I made the switch from telling jokes to telling stories, I got more personal, and then I connected with the audience. I mean, I only had to do 30 minutes. But then the second half of my set was good because I shifted gears because I'm a pro. And my friend Tony Woods, who watched the show afterwards, we were all eating, and he said, you know what? He goes, can we hear it for our brave hero pilot? And everybody looks at him. He goes, I'm talking about Tom Rhodes, ladies and gentlemen. What you saw tonight, our brave hero pilot landed the plane with no engines safely in the cornfield, and everyone survived. And I thought that was exactly the perfect way to describe that show that I had just done. And only from years of experience could I land that plane on the Hudson River with, safely in the cornfield, as Tony said, with no engines, and all the passengers survived. Is the truth. So one cool thing that they did for the comedy was the backdrop of the stage every night. They had a photo of the headliner comedian that was done. It was a portrait of that night's headliner, and it was done in Rubik's Cube colored squares. And I only learned this after I had been in Budapest for a couple of days, but the man who invented the Rubik's Cube, Rubik, is from Hungary. So they're really proud of that. And that was a really cool little detail, that they had my photo was the backdrop of the stage, and it was made out of Rubik's Cube colored squares. However, they had chose a photo of me that was 10 years old, but, their heart was in the right place. Anywho, I watched the comedy every night, and it got hotter and hotter as the week progressed, and it was a difficult gig for everybody to see how they handled it. It was this one American guy who went on one of the shows on the weekend, and it was interesting. He said he did a short set, but he said he was he was pro-Trump and loved Trump, and Europeans aren't that fond of Donald Trump. So I kind of felt the audience. They were still laughing, but then they, I could feel them decide not to be on this guy's side. And then he closed with this joke about every religion is against the Jewish people, and he's listing, and he said, but the Muslims, their religion, I forget what, I can't even, but it was it was a pretty disturbing joke that the guy, he had a decent set, even though he said he was pro-Trump, but it was and I talked to him afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I can't believe my Jewish joke didn't go over. He goes, I didn't mean it in a bad way. And I go, well, from my perspective, it sounded like an anti-Jewish person joke. And it was a really awkward, weird, that guy, there were no survivors on his plane. Everyone died, including him, the pilot. So anyway, that was interesting. And then Tony Woods did the weekend, and I love him so much. We went one night, I took him to this after the festival when we got back to Budapest. Man, there was so much cool shit in the city. Walking around one day, I found this place. The English translation is Simple Garden, whatever that is in Hungary. That was this complex of some old building on the inside. There were all these bar areas on the weekend. There was also they had vintage clothing for sale, but there's plants everywhere, and graffiti, and it was fucking cool. But another place that I found is called the Brody House. And it was some hotel that had this really cool bar. And I was walking by in the afternoon one day, and I popped in there. I think it was on the Friday night. And I took Tony Woods there, and Stephen Grant, a comedian from England, who I hadn't seen in 12 years when we toured in China together. But Tony Woods kept saying, God damn, Tom Rhodes brought me to Bram Stoker's house. I gotta make sure my neck is protected. Anyway, Tony Woods makes me laugh. And he dealt with those shows like a pro. Another favorite thing at that, so the Sziget Festival, man, there's art, acrobats, there were people dressed up as animals, these kind of I don't know if they were from France or wherever, but they had these like giraffes. Like it looked like these people in these giraffe costumes going around, and other people, just different animals, and it was so artsy and cool, and there was a fun game area, and yeah, they had like the first night there was like a biplane doing, tricks and spins and loop-de-loops above the festival in the air. But one of my favorite things at the festival, and it was right in front of where the entrance to the artist village was, about a half a football field walk in front of it. And this place called Come Dance With Us. And so it was basically like, there was one guy and he's got a guitar. He was so funky and so cool. I asked the sound man, what's the name of the band? He didn't know. He said, but the man was from Burkina Faso. And then he had a drummer. But then I think there was probably 10 professional dancers that were there leading the dance. So this massive dance area in front of this guy, and he's singing not in English and killing it on the guitar, and then the drummer's keeping the beat. And these dancers kept they were telling people, okay, bend over and throw your back, spin around, shake your butt. And so there's 100 people stepping up, stepping back, spinning around, jumping up and down, doing all these different kind of dance moves. So this was my magnetic force spot. I kept going. It was so fun. There was so much joy coming from this one area. And, the woman Sophia, who works with Kalman, when he first introduced me to her, he said she's doing her PhD in comedy. So I thought she's a student. And then as the week progressed and I talked to her more, I had some really great conversations with her. She was talking about how the importance of stand-up comedy for a lot of people don't know how to speak in public, and just how therapeutic it is to be able to speak, and that she wanted to get comedy or the ability to teach people, how to be funny or silly and speak in public, to teach that in school to kids. And oh my God, that's brilliant. And then I talked to her, as the week progressed, and I kept going back to this dance place. I think this dance place also would be a very important thing to teach kids. Just to be expressive, to shake your butt, to spin around, to go forward, go back, throw your arms up in the air, shake your hands, whatever. It was such a fun, cool place, and it was called Come Dance With Us. And that was one of the highlights of my SIGET festival. So on Sunday, my last night of the festival, I don't think I mentioned this, but the hotel had breakfast, and then you could eat dinner in the artist village every night. I think I spent $100 the whole week I was in Budapest. And I tried. I was looking for places I went to vintage clothing stores. At that place, Simple Garden, I talked about, I bought a Switzerland soccer jersey for 12 euros, because I think old soccer jerseys are cool, or any soccer jersey. If it's got the right color scheme, is cool. Red's not my color, but it was a cool jersey. Anywho, so I watched the comedy show. I go to the festival, have dinner in the artist village with my comedian friends, and I think that show on Sunday was the best comedy show of the week. So Dave Thompson, the guy who invited me to the festival, he hosted, emceed all week. There was a gay comedian from India named Navin who went on, and then a gay comedian from Ireland named Shane. I forget their last names, but they both had good sets. And then Stephen Grant from England, and his mother's from Hungary, so he had some good Hungarian material. It's interesting, if you missed it on the news, like I think I don't know what the situation in Hungary is but I think the gay pride parade was illegal, and they put it on anyway, and like 100,000 people came out for this thing. So really enjoyed that the last comedy show. Here's an observation that I wanted to. One thing I learned about. I really loved the Hungarian people. Budapest, people were so friendly. All of them spoke English. Very educated, smart people. But one observation that I have about Budapest was on the sidewalk. And, Hungarian people will walk right at you. It's a strange, bizarre thing. And I mentioned this to Kalman and Sophia, the Hungarians who were running the comedy. And they were like, yeah, that is a true thing. If you're on the sidewalk, you could be on a wide sidewalk and you're all the way on the right side walking in one direction. And if a Hungarian person is coming towards you, men and women did this, and kids, and if they're coming at you the other direction and they're way over on the left, they'll walk straight at you. And then you have to make the decision to get out of the way, which there's already plenty of space on the sidewalk. There's no reason to walk straight at somebody. So that was a bizarre, weird thing about Hungary. Sorry, just needed to throw that in there for the record. You know what I'm saying? Anywho, so after the comedy show, the headliner on the main stage for Sunday night was Post Malone. And I've since his first record, I love Post Malone. I'm a fanatic. And I've seen him twice already. I saw him in Toronto at the Scotia Center, and then I saw him in LA at the LA Forum. What was that, 3 years ago? And anywho, so I went straight to the main stage. I'm somewhere in the middle of the crowd, standing at a great spot. Got there 45 minutes before the show started, and then Post Malone was the cherry on the cake, baby. I was looking forward to Budapest, the Sziget Festival, and, this was the climactic orgasm of my Budapest experience, was to see Post Malone. So he comes out and totally dressed like he's got Wrangler jeans on, and he was wearing ostrich cowboy boots, which were flat in the front on the tips. Now, those of you who know, authentic cowboys, they don't wear Levi's. They wear fucking Wranglers. And they don't wear pointy cowboy boots. They wear the flat front ones. So my man comes out, he's got some authentic shit, and he's got a Dallas Cowboys jersey on. And he walks out, and he had a band. When I saw Post Malone the two times before, I really, really was blown away by this, just like at the Scotia Center in Toronto. He had 3 big long lanes that he walked up and down. There was no band or anything. They just played the music. And it was this, he made this intimacy of this arena, like you're hanging out with him. And he just walked up and down these lanes and singing the whole time. So this time he had a band backing him, but he walks out. The first song is Rockstar. I've been popping pillies, feeling like a rock star. Crowd goes crazy. It's interesting how people, filming on their phones and all the phones. And I decided not to film at the beginning. I got a couple of video moments of his performance when he did some of my favorite songs later. But for the first half of the show, I didn't touch my phone. And then there was these women behind me, I'm older, but so it was I'm at a concert, but there was these women behind me, I would say they're 40s, They were in their 40s. I don't know where they were from. But like this woman's filming and like she touched my head a couple times with the bottom of her phone. I guess her, your arm and your hand gets tired from holding it up. And this, I'm not crazy about crowds and packed concerts anymore, but for Post Malone and certain people, I'll fucking do it. And I'll get down into the gritty, into the middle of the crowd for someone I love. But that was a little annoying. But nonetheless, Post Malone was incredible. And it was so fucking hot that night. And he kept saying, oh my God, it's hot and I need another cold beer. And he kept sniffing during his performance. And there was one moment, he talked a lot, but there was like 3 times where he goes, who came here to have a good time? Which I think the first time was okay. But like, it was like after the second or third, I'm like, okay, maybe I think he might be a little wasted. And then after one song when he was talking, he did this big inhale sniff. Like, I did coke years ago. I know somebody who's coked up when I see it. So I think he might have been a little on the Sniffy Town train that night. But he was still fucking unbelievable. This guy is like Elvis, man. He's got so much charisma and he's got so much charm. And he did say twice, I'm so thankful to be back in your beautiful country. And I mean, I could feel that. And because now I'm in love with Budapest, Hungary. I'd love to see more of it. I can't wait to come back. And it is an honor to get to go there and perform. And Post Malone, last year or earlier this year, he put out a country album. And it's a fucking great country album. The whole album is amazing. So this set, he like leaned mostly on, he had the band. And so he did like a ton of his country songs. He takes off his Dallas Cowboys jersey. He had the big fat ass belt buckle. He's covered in tattoos. He's got face tattoos. Not a big fan of facial tattoos, but on Post Malone, I think they're cool. And so, he also has got this, he's just such a great performer and he's got so many great songs. And then, and then he did the hip hop classics later, deep into the set. Congratulations, White Iverson. I'm swagging, ooh, I'm balling. I've been balling since I was young. Anyway, fucking love Post Malone. He did not do my favorite song, which is I Like You, the duet he did with Doja Cat. That's actually the ringtone on my phone. If you're looking for a ringtone, that's always happy to hear. But I was so happy. Oh, they say that the Hungarian people don't smile. And that's something that I read somewhere like a year ago, that like if you walk around smiling in Hungary, people are suspicious of you. They think you're up to no good. And I asked Kalman and Sophia, our Hungarian comedy handlers, and they said, yeah, it's true that the Hungarian people do not walk around smiling. The only time they smile is when the Hungarian soccer team does something good. That's like their moment of expressing joy. Anyway, I had the stupidest, biggest smile on my face while Post Malone was playing. And I just was so happy. And I was happy to see the guy. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. This woman who hit this woman, so she's in her 40s, blonde. I don't know where she was from. There was one point, like 3/4 into the show, maybe an hour into the show, where Post Malone came down. He walked down on the ground, but there was like somewhere past the middle area of the massive crowd. He came and popped up. So he's like actually not that far from where I'm standing now. And he's singing, he did like 2 or 3 songs from that area. So the woman who was behind me, who kept hitting me in the head with her fucking phone, she's so clueless. She's filming the whole show, right? So, but she's filming the TV screens on either side of the stage. So I turn and I look. Oh my God, Post Malone. Wow, how great that I like got where I was, because now he's like fucking right there. And excuse me, this woman, she had no idea that he's now behind her, and she's still filming. So I thought that was a funny moment. And she didn't. It took her like, I'd say, a full minute, 2 minutes before she realized that everyone is now looking in the other direction before she turned around. But I love Post Malone, man. And that was like one of the highlights of my summer. And it was just I can't say enough about how great the Siget Music Festival is. And discovering the music of Nura from Germany, and then getting to see Post Malone, and just all the creativity and art that was in this festival. And just, being among my tribe, the comedians, and getting to, see French rappers, Hungarian rappers, and just different music acts. It was just so fucking cool. Okay, so now I want to tell you about this phone moment that I had. So, like everyone, like most people, I'm addicted to my phone. And I look at it too much. So in the last... year and a half, I've been on Twitter, and I'm trying to only post stand-up comedy, just joke clips now. So there was a clip from when I was in Minneapolis in June, and it's the joke that I do about, I think only women should own guns. Woman is the life giver, so only she should decide when it should be taken away. Imagine a world if only women own guns. Rape would vanish overnight. All wars would end because women have the power of reasoning and compromise. Bullets would come in bright colors to match their outfits. Bachelorette parties would be so much more entertaining. Shelley, I hope you have a happy marriage, but in case you don't, I'm going to give you the silencer. Pistol whip that fool if you have to. At the very least, I think that women should be allowed to carry paintball guns, and that they should shoot men who catcall them with different colors depending on the severity of the comment. This way, when these men went home, they'd have to explain to their wives, their mothers, their girlfriends, their daughters, what they said to deserve such a color. So, that's not even... there's kind of a funny part in the gun thing, but the second part about the paintball guns, it's let's be honest, it's a statement. I always say a joke with no punchline is a poem, so it's kind of a poem. But anyway, I posted this clip. There's not even a big laugh at the end of the joke. So a couple days ago, while I'm in Budapest, I'm looking at I had posted the clip. And then the next day, I wake up and I was like, oh my God. Because normally when I post a video on TikTok, it'll get 300 views, 1,000 views. I think, 1,300 might be the most views I've ever had on a video. So I wake up and I look at it and I'm like, holy fuck, there's 14,000 views. And then I look at my phone an hour later and it's 37,000 views. And then it was really interesting. I didn't look at all the comments. I just kind of barely glanced at it, because at the beginning there were men commenting, "This is stupid. I watched to the end. It's not funny. And women have their periods." It's so stupid. If I was a hack comedian, I would have put that into the fucking joke. But what a ignorant fucking thing to say. Just that, it's woman is the life giver. They're very vulnerable in any society. And men with fucking guns cause a lot of problems. So it's just a cute little silly imaginative idea that I had. And I think the paintball part is cute and clever. So I first started glancing at the comments, and there's all these fucking guys leaving goon comments. And then throughout the day, then all these women started rallying and saying, no, this idea is brilliant, and the crowd is not giving this guy the love that he deserves. One woman wrote, I hope your wife treats you like the king that you are. And then other women were like, Tom Rhodes for president. So I think it was like women sharing the video and then them going back and forth with like the negative comments from men and women. For some reason, the numbers just kept going and going. And as I'm speaking to you now, what did it get? It's like 740,000 views. This video got so far, and then that morning I started the day with like 1,051 followers, and then now I have almost 5,000. It's amazing. Like I got like 4,500 new followers in 24 hours. And then it was like 2,000 something, 2,600 comments, which I don't have the time to look at it. And I don't want to, if you get intoxicated by the praise on the shitty comments will also take you out one day. So like I'm trying to be a snob and not look at it. But I did see some woman commented, I will accept this as a marriage proposal and I will accept nothing less. So it was really cute and funny. And it was thrilled me to no end. So on that last day, on Sunday, what a happy day for me to wake up that day. And I thought 14,000 views. I was fucking happy with that. So then throughout the day, just these numbers go fucking crazy. And then I end the night by getting to see Post Malone. And I never had a video go viral. And that one, and then like all these like the 4,500 new followers I got, I think like 97% of those new followers are women. So thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Allah, Buddha, everyone. The divine feminine energy power of the universe. So anyway, Budapest did not disappoint, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to tell you, I'm having a really good summer, and I hope you are too. I'm sure I'll give you some more love in a minute. Hooray for humanity. Hooray for Budapest, Hungary.